I messed this up one time. Hit record and then I hit the X button, which is not good. So we've been starting with these videos. Here's the next one.
With a totally rebuilt site and over 1 million jobs worldwide, there's never been a better time to go to Monster.com.
Another example of are you in the right job, right? So this conversation is kind of important. So on page 31, can you find that in your packet? There's a little exercise to begin this personality discussion. So do you see that at the top of the page in the space below, write your name?
Yes.
Like, don't do it like your signature. That's most people's signatures, well, mine. Nobody can read except me. But do it like in cursive, okay? And then after you do that, in the space below that, do it again, but with your opposite hand.
It's hard to do. I never write my full name in cursive.
I know.
Yeah.
I think-
Not going to be good here. All right. Almost got it. Should have had someone with a shorter name.
Yeah. So what this exercise teaches is, when you try to do something that's not natural, one, it's uncomfortable. Two, it's slower. I mean, you wrote your first time with your correct hand in half the time.
Yeah.
And third, it's still bad. So you take longer and it's still bad. This is not good. This is why we use our correct hand. But you can see where this is going, right? So when we push against our natural bent, our natural tendencies, the way that we are wired, the way that we are shaped, that's the word that we like in this class. When we push against the way we're shaped, it's not effective, it's not fun, it doesn't produce good fruit. So we want people to minister, to serve in the right place, in the right way. Okay? God's wired your temperament in a unique way. This is a factor that's important in matching you to the right ministry. It's obvious that God hasn't used a cookie cutter to stamp out people in the process of uniformity. He loves variety. There's no right or wrong temperament. We need opposites to balance the church. So, because you're not like somebody else doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you're different. So back to the inventory. I mean, it's not an inventory. It's just sort of a really quick. Go ahead. Yeah. So it's a pretty quick way of getting at a personality. This comes from Smalley and Trent, one of their books. I use it in premarriage counseling. It gives couples a little bit of a snapshot. It's not very deep, it's not very detailed, but I think it gives a fairly accurate perception of who we are and the differences in personalities. So we're looking at these. You don't know what the letters stand for yet because I haven't explained it. But LBOG. And circle the ones that sound like you, double the number circled, and you should have one or two high ones and one or two low ones, probably. Most people, that's the way it works.
Got it?
Okay, so L stands, and this, again, from Smalley and Trent, L stands for lion. And lion is leader, king of the forest, right? So the lion personality takes charge, assertive, leader, goal-driven. The lion is, let's do it. Decisions do not come hard for lions. It doesn't matter if they make the wrong decision. It's just easy to make decisions. Let's do this. Let's go there. So lions are leaders. Okay, L is for lion. B is beaver. Beavers are the perfectionists in the crowd. They're the ones who have their closets organized by color and season, and the shorts are in one end and the long pants are in the other, and so perfectionists are not about let's get it done. Perfectionists, let's do it right. So the beaver is the perfectionist, deliberate, controlled, analytic, inquisitive, precise, persistent, scheduled. O is otter. Otter is, let's just have fun. So if you have a lion and an otter, you've got a fun boss. So an otter is just playful. You've seen otters. They're playful, energetic, creative. Our oldest son is pretty high otter. When he was a teenager, it was a trip. Because he's just always doing something that was like, now cut that out. Just being playful. Sometimes in it. So I'll give you an example. Jesse James parade weekend. This is when Josh was still in high school. He came from some audition or something, so he was running a little late, so his adrenaline was high already. So we're on the back of the trailer, and he's on the back of the trailer going to play the keyboard, and he's bouncing on the trailer and making all of us bounce along with him. Josh, stop that! Oh, what? Otter. Otters like to say, trust me, as they're leading, over the canyon, over the ridge, over, into the abyss. Trust me, it'll be fun, they say. Right? Otters. G is golden retriever, and golden retrievers are, this is a typecast. It's an oversimplification, but the middle child, the mediator, the peacemaker, the one who, it's a Rodney King. Is that too old of a reference for somebody your age? Can't we all just get along? Golden retriever. It's all about relationships. So yeah, those are 4 simple ways of getting at the differences in personalities. But generally, you're 1 or 2 high and 1 or 2 low. Was that true for you?
It looks like it in the brief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's the fun part. We marry people often that are on the opposite spectrum.
I see that. Justin's everything that I didn't circle.
Yeah. Which makes life fun. Because we don't see the world through the same lens. And that's not always bad. Sometimes we need that other person on the other side of the spectrum to kind of balance us out. They're very helpful. The Bible talks about a helper suitable. So kind of specific to what I need. So in marriage, that's often the case. We have 2 lions in our home. Not Cheryl and me, but 2 lions, and they had to work at living together in the same house because they wanted to be in charge. And it was, again, old references because I'm old. Monday Night Football, the opening used to be 2 helmets, butting heads, kind of colliding and, blowing up. That's what happens sometimes when you have 2 lions in the home. If you have a child who is a lion and you're a lion, they could create some sparks because it's how you're wired. You're both trying to be in charge, and in a family, that's harder to share.
Is that true with any of those? that if you share it with someone else, like if there's two otters in the home, does that make it harder?
I think the lion makes it particularly hard because it's the leader personality. And you can't have everybody lead.
Right.
So, no, I think that's the main one that I would say can create some clash if you have two of those persons. In any, whether it's family or PTO, whatever organization that you're serving in, if you have, what's the expression? Too many Indians, not enough. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Yeah.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, there's all kinds of expressions like that, right?
Right.
So, anyways, that's a really quick look at personality. So the next page, page 32, kind of unpacks this just a little bit more. Let me go to the next slide. No. How do I see myself? And these are spectrums, right? So on the spectrum of introverted, extroverted, where do you see yourself? The idea is you put an X somewhere along the line. I put an X between 1 and 2 on introverted. I think I would probably redo that these days.
Yeah.
I think I'm realizing I'm more introverted than I want to admit to sometimes. The next spectrum is feeler thinker. How do I make decisions? Feeler thinker on that spectrum. The next one is routine variety. What kind of tasks do you prefer? Do you like Monday is this day, Tuesday is that day, Wednesday is this day, Thursday is that day, 8 o'clock is when I do this, 9 o'clock is when I do that. Do you prefer that, or do you prefer variety? Variety, routine. The next spectrum is self-controlled, self-expressive.
What does that one mean? Exactly.
I think it would be someone verbally, and by the way, otter, I didn't talk about otter. Otters often are very verbal. And so, again, in our family, as an example, our oldest son was very verbal, and sometimes that means that you become critical with your words. And so we would have to, and he really took it out on his younger brother. And so we would have to say, Josh, that's not okay. Don't say that to your brother. We would say, hey, you're going to be in each other's wedding pictures, so knock it off. Yeah. But self-controlled, self-expressive, I think of it as a verbal expression. So somebody who's self-controlled is going to measure their words. They're going to speak slower, and their words are going to be measured more carefully than somebody who is just going to kind of just... You heard somebody say, I always just say what I think. And that's how I am. That's the spectrum that I'm thinking of in that contrast. Cooperative, competitive is the next spectrum. How do you relate to others? Cooperative, competitive. So, not a ton to unpack in this section of personality. Spiritual gifts, heart, abilities, personality. It's the fourth of the 5 letters in the acrostic. So the next part is life experience. Any questions about personality before we move on? Or comments? Okay.
No.
So then examining my experiences. And we're going to use Paul as kind of example here when we look at these different categories. Romans 8:28, Paul wrote that. We know that in all things, all is capitalized, in all things God works for the good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Not everything is good, but God can work together in all things. So there's a difference. Rick Warren likes to say God never wastes a hurt. I find that to be true. In my life, the biggest hurt in my life was my parents' divorce. I was a kid. And I feel like God has used that hurt in my life on many different levels. He's used it to shape my feelings about marriage, the sanctity of marriage, the permanence of marriage. I feel like because I'm a child of divorce, when people in my life, in our congregation, are going through divorce, I can relate, not necessarily to the moms and the dads, but to the kids. I can tell the parents how their kids are feeling because I've walked that. And I feel like, when I'm in touch with that hurt, it's helping somebody else. That's not being wasted. It's not like, oh, why did that happen to me? But God caused the hurt, but God can use the hurt. I think there's a significant difference in the way we talk about that. So then Philippians 1 says, now I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel. You kind of see that purposeful hurt again in Paul's words. One of the most overlooked factors in determining the ministry God has for you is your past experience, particularly hurts and problems that you've overcome with God's help. Since our greatest life messages come out of our weakness, not our strength, we should pay close attention to what we've learned in the School of Hard Knocks. Robin Roberts, anchor on Good Morning America, went through cancer a few years ago, and her message was, let your mess be your message. Same idea, right? He wants you to be open to ministering to people who are going through what you've already been through. 2 Corinthians 1, God wonderfully comforts and strengthens us in all our hardships and trials. Why does he do this? So that when others are troubled, needing our sympathy and encouragement, we can pass on to them the same help and comfort God has given us. So then these are the categories we'll look at. Spiritual experiences, painful experiences, educational experiences, and ministry experiences. We're dealing with the last letter now, necrostic, life experiences, okay? So spiritual experiences are meaningful decisions or times with God. Painful experiences are problems, hurts, trials that have taught you. Educational experiences you might tie into, what classes did I most enjoy in school, what subjects were the ones that I was best at. And ministry experiences would be places perhaps that you've served in the church. Okay? So again, there's a place in the back of that personal profile place for you to kind of work through those things and flesh them out. But we're going to talk now broadly about our philosophy of ministry at Crossroads. So what we believe about ministry. Living for Jesus includes a call to ministry. Ministry is the heart of the Christian life. Function follows form. These are kind of review. Some of these words should sound familiar. Using gifts is an act of stewardship and worship. You discover your gifts through ministry. Sometimes we think, well, I need to know what my gift is and then go do it. And that's fine. That's part of the aha of this class. It's the intention. But sometimes, you don't really know what your gifts are until you start doing stuff. And you go, oh, that came easy to me. Oh, I really enjoyed that. Oh, I really love, I'll use you as an example. I really love creating something, leading something. What I don't love is working with children. I've heard you say that. That's not right or wrong. That's not good or bad. That's just you. That's you. That's your unique shape. So you discover your gifts through ministry. I'm guessing that you've had some kind of ministry experience with kids in the past that you went, don't like that very much.
Yeah, I've never really done it because I don't really like
Oh, really?
kids.
Okay.
No, that's about myself.
Okay. Well, all right.
I love my kids.
No. And then serving according to your shape brings fruitfulness and fulfillment. So those principles. Continuing with this, what we believe about the body of Christ. God's Holy Spirit has equipped us with everything that we need. The church is a body, not a business, an organism, not an organization. Has life to it. Everyone has to do their part if the church is to be healthy. We're in this Fit Church, series right now, and it really is about, each person evaluating themselves, not saying, oh, our church is this, or our church is that, or our church is weak, or our church is fit, or our church is... But the church is you. That's what I've tried to say week after week after week. And so, when you bring your unique shape to the table, and when you function in the body is more healthy than if you take your gifts and you leave them all packed up and, don't share them. So we must work for the greater good. There's no place for turfism. I think do you know what I mean by that? I mean, it's, yeah,
This is my turf, that's your turf.
yeah, this is my, if our musicians, for example, said, hey, this is my deal, go find some other church to sing at or play the drums, or, that doesn't work for the health of the body of Christ. What we believe about the role of pastors. Equipping people for ministry is priority one. There was a message, was it last week or the week before? People are ministers, pastors are equippers. That's how the Bible talks about it. Our objective, pastor's objective, is to mobilize an army of ministers. We value the individual more than the ministry. I think I said early on in this class that kind of the paradigm that I grew up with in the church was, if we have a need, we just find a warm body and we put them in, doesn't matter if it's a square peg in a round hole. They'll love Jesus, it'll be fine. And I think I've changed my thinking on that entirely. I start with asking the person, what do you love? What are you passionate about? Because the answer to those questions lead us to the right place for ministry. What we believe about accountability. Everything rises or falls on leadership. Well, there's a sermon in the Fit Church series in a few weeks on leadership. We're going to talk some about it even today. Developing leaders is the topic for today. Maturing churches raise the standards of leadership. People do what we inspect, not what we expect. I forget who said that years ago, and I picked up that phrase. People do what we inspect, not what we expect. Does that make sense to you? So when I say, let's talk about membership in the church. You've heard me say, well, maybe you don't remember, but if you're a member, you've gone through the class. I remember that. I say to folks in our membership class, membership has its privileges. No, not at Crossroads. Membership has responsibilities. So what we expect from members is to live into these values that we have, to know Christ, to grow in Christ, serve Christ, share Christ, to live out these values. And we expect our members to support the church by being involved in a group, by giving to the church financially, by stewarding your time, talent, resources. So that's what we expect. But if we never hold people accountable to that, it's a pretty flimsy expectation. So, for example, let me use a different example. In the home, I don't know what you expect from your kids. We expected our kids to have their room clean like at least once a week. I wanted to be able to see the floor. So if we had that expectation, but we never inspected the room, opened the door, and looked to see if what we were expecting was being met. If we never inspected the room and said, sorry, you can't go out right now because your room's a mess. As soon as you pick up the room, then you can do what you're asking me to do. So people do what we inspect, not what we expect. That's the concept. Okay. Crossroads Philosophy Ministry, what we believe about training. Every leader is a learner. I read a quote from Andy Stanley last week, the week before, I can't remember, that said, he lives on the edge, but they're reaching unchurched people in great numbers, so it's hard for me to knock what they're doing. But he says we put people into jobs that they're not ready for because we feel like they'll learn better when what does he say? Adults operate on a need-to-know basis, and as soon as they know what they need to know, they'll go find out how to do it. So on-the-job training is we provide, there's a training thing coming up next Saturday, Team Day. It's a district team day every year. It's about the same time of year. There's some opportunities for training. This class is in part of our training and our core values. But really the best way people learn is just to do it. And then you learn what you don't know. So on-the-job training. Only what we share multiplies. You'll hear that today also. What we believe about diversity of ministry. Diversity emphasizes people's unique giftedness. So we don't expect people to all be alike, all to think alike, to all have the same gifts, the same talents, the same abilities, the same passion. Diversity emphasizes people's unique giftedness. We encourage the starting of new ministries that are in keeping with people's, I have to keep, using this as an example, but I really do think it was sort of a God thing, this 5K deal. Honestly, you're a pretty passionate person, but I don't think I've ever seen you more excited about what's going on in our church than I've seen you these last weeks as you're leading us toward this event. And it was like, man, what a match.
Yeah.
We took your giftedness as leader, your passion for running, for reaching the community, and it all came together in leading this event. And it's like, all the stars aligned and the angels sang. And it was one of
It
those.
hasn't, not a minute of it has been work.
Yeah.
It's all been just fun.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed every minute.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's the way it's supposed to work. Yeah. New ministries. Ministry must be in line with the vision and purpose of the church. Oh, I think you get that. Ministries have life cycles. This is hard for some people because the thing that we're passionate about, if we feel it, if the writing is on the wall, that ministry is dying, and we just ought to bury it and recognize that it served its purpose. The people that are still passionate about that have a hard time letting it go. In the same way that we have a hard time letting go our loved ones when they pass. When my mom passed, I said to sweet Virginia True at Westbrook, yeah, she went to heaven. We weren't ready for her to go. And she said, even when they're ready, we never are. And I think that's true with all kinds of things in life. When we have to let go of something, that makes it difficult. But ministries have life cycles. And we've seen that, in this church. We've seen ministries come and go. Sometimes they come and go because the life cycle of the idea of the ministry comes and goes. People's needs change. Sometimes it dies because a leader moves away and the successor has not been prepared. And nobody is there to pick up the mantle and say, I'll do that because I believe in that just as much as that last person did. So ministries have life cycles, and I think we should be aware of that in life and particularly in the church. Most of the time we ask for a 1-year commitment. We don't make that written. Maybe we should. But when somebody signs up to do something, it's not a forever commitment. You can... Sometimes, this is how it works. Sometimes people get so committed in the church, they feel like the only way to get out of their commitments is to leave the church. That's sad for me. It's like, well, there is another way. You could say, no, or I'm done with this, or,
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Have them.
So, yeah. And it's a two-way street. I get that. And, we need to let people out of things probably better than what we do currently. But it's not forever. We don't, it's not an assumption that 5K will be a forever thing. If it runs its course, so, that was unintentional. Then so be it. Anyways, you get it. Last slide, our philosophy of ministry. What we believe about performance. We expect excellence, not perfection. Listen, if this was a perfect church, I couldn't come. We don't expect perfection, but we expect people to give their best. So excellence is a value that we have, not perfection. We encourage creativity, innovation. God uses ordinary people in extraordinary ways. Two great enemies of ministry are fear and secular values. when we just fear being used of God, speaking for God, living for God, serving God by serving others. Fear, the song we're going to end with today is, fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Fear is an enemy of ministry and secular values. If we are caught up in selfishness or materialism or me first or, those kinds of things will kill ministry as well. So my job is to give ministry away. Not just my job as pastor, as equipper, but all of our leaders. I would just challenge you even now to be thinking about, who is it that would lead 5K if I'm done with it, or if I move away, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like who's your second person who has just as much passion about this as you do? And you may not know who that person is today, but I think we, as leaders, we need to always be kind of looking on the horizon for who is that person that I can raise up, that I can pour into. I'll be talking about that quite a bit today. So, questions, comments?
No.
Okay. I think I'm going to push stop on recording, and then there's a sort of a summary evaluation here that I'll look at with you.